I don't know about you guys, but my feed has been completely filled with videos of people talking about digital rigs and all of their merits over analog rigs. That seems to be the conversation lately, especially leading up to NAMM, which is this week. Typically there are a lot of digital new products that come out to play at that time frame, so it makes sense. But and I've enjoyed a lot of the videos. I subscribe to many channels that are talking about this topic, and I think there's some validity to a lot of what's being said. But there's also kind of a fairly large omission, in my opinion, that's not really been talked about. So I want to just kind of talk about it with you guys. Now, obviously, I'm surrounded by tube amps here. Vintage tube amps. I love amps. If you've looked at my channel, looked at my recent videos, you will see I love amps. Let's get that out of the way. But a lot of you, my more recent subscribers, might not even know that I was full-on diehard digital for a long time. My channel was basically... it was dedicated to the Helix. I sold patches for it. I used a Helix live for basically 4 years straight. I went to the Kemper after that. I used the Quad Cortex for a bit. So I have definitely done a lot of time with digital rigs, and obviously, I'm surrounded by tube amps I play live. I've shown you guys in videos. In fact, I just uploaded a video where I played a live gig with this 59 Bassman and my 64 AC30 in stereo. So I've kind of done the full gamut of, really far into digital, just digital rigs, all the way to the craziest, kind of vintage tube amp rigs. So I feel like I can say a little bit about all of those elements. And really the one thing that isn't talked about much is the fact that when you go digital, you're basically 100% reliant on the sound guy. So what that means is you can spend hours, days, weeks just perfecting your tone, getting it perfect, having all the levels perfect so you get this nice boost for a solo, this verse you dropped on, whatever you want to do. And I did that. I tried to get everything perfect. On the Helix, I would have a, verse 1, chorus 1, verse 2, a snapshot for every single part of the song. So I get it. I've been there. But at the end of the day, what the audience hears is not up to you. It's up to the sound guy. And of course, there's going to be caveats to everything I say here. We're speaking in generalities. But that's a big, big thing that people are not talking about. When you go digital, you are completely stuck with whatever the sound guy does. So, he could just take that fader, bring it down, and walk away, right? Maybe it's, for most gigs, you don't have a super active sound guy. Most churches, you might even have a too active of a sound guy that biases electric guitars much, much lower than they should be in the mix. I can speak firsthand to that. Man, I see that constantly. Most churches in my area, I see the guitar players playing on stage and they're miming. You can't hear the electric guitar whatsoever. That is a direct result of the silent stage movement and everyone going all digital and that being the requirement. This, the dirty little secret of tube amps is you have a lot of power at your fingertips, which can, great power comes great responsibility. You can abuse that for sure. And people do. People turn up way too loud and not, really think of the big picture and the overall sound as a band and, what the audience is hearing. But it's really nice as mature adults, having that ace, up your sleeve to where you can really dictate somewhat the sound in the room with your amp. So if you've got a sound guy that's not paying attention, or which is much more the case, if you're playing a bar gig, for example, the thought of going all digital just makes no sense to me personally. I think that is probably the worst use case for an all digital rig because the front of house, the PA is not doing really any heavy lifting at a bar gig. I've done many of those. That's for the vocals, basically. That's about it. So your amp is really filling the room. That's the job of the amp in those cases. The mic is, haphazardly placed at 57, right in the center, whatever else. That doesn't matter because the audience isn't really hearing you through the PA. They're hearing you partially through the PA, maybe, but mostly because of the amp in the room, which sounds great, which is why a lot of people like that. And a lot of people with digital rigs chase that amp in the room sound. So I just think it's something that's not talked about. You are stuck. You're basically screwed unless you have a great sound guy, which is very, very rare. I mean, God bless the great sound guys. The best sound guys are musicians. I've always said this, I've worked with a lot of them. The vast majority don't care. They're not musicians. They don't really, have good ears for live live stuff. Unless they're professional, that's usually the case. Churches, especially so. It's usually volunteers that you're like, I'm kind of tech savvy, and they end up getting stuck in the position and they dictate everything. And if you don't have an amp next to you, then you don't have the ability to be heard. You are completely stuck. So I just want to throw this out there. Little video, different than what I typically do, but I feel like somebody needed to kind of give a little bit of the counter argument to this. And I can do follow-up videos talking about all the other things that people have talked about. Yes, digital is much more convenient. It's much smaller. It's easier. Your tone is, much more consistent. All of those things are true. Tube amps, they're heavy, they're loud. All of those things are true. But at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of value in having the power of an amp behind you to really dictate the sound in the room. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Subscribe for more, and until next time, see ya.